Hello, 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 everybody. Sorry about the mix-up with the time there. We got Trey hopping on here in a minute, so we'll just be a few more seconds. Thanks everybody for waiting for us. How's everybody doing today? So we got Vic in the comments. Nice to see you again. Doing well. I say Vic always has a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments over there. Happy to see that you joined us again for another week. Yeah, so this week we have Trey will be going through the new macOS implant that we have, so we're able to deploy campaigns to macOS endpoints now. So he'll be demonstrating that. Has a little bit of a workaround you have to do to it. The macOS has here's Trey right here. Let me add him. The um macOS has a little more say built-in security, I guess is a way that you can frame it, where the implants are a little more complicated. It takes a little more nuance, a few more steps. So Trey's getting it set up here, and we'll go ahead and I think show off how to create a Mac OS campaign. Probably talk about it a little bit, deploy it down, and get that campaign launched on the endpoint.
Say that we can. Coming in clear, Tyler.
I can hear you.
Gotta love time. So let me finish getting set up really quick, and then we can go into it.
Of everybody on, does anyone run a lot of Mac OS devices in your enterprise or on your personal machines? Any devs or anything like that? And one of the challenges, excuse me, one of the challenges for me that I had kind of as the defender is with these new Mac OS implants that we have and use. There is not the same readily available security logs on Mac operating systems as what you would expect to see in like a Windows machine, or even Linux with syslog or sysmon for Linux. That those don't really exist on Macs at all. It all seems like it comes down to whatever EDR you have deployed on there. Even the logs don't write in plain text to be able to ingest them into Splunk. So we're going through a bit of a uh, detection trial and error, as it were, for Mac OS. So I am curious if there are any defenders on here, what you guys use on your endpoints as like to feed your logs into Splunk or things like that.
Yeah, I would be especially interested to hear about that because I've done a lot of looking around and poking around here lately, and like looking at projects like Objective C. They've got some really cool tooling built, but I haven't quite seen anything that can serve as kind of like that sysmon
Yeah.
style tooling or like a
Yeah.
log kind of thing.
Just like even seeing something as simple like if it would output, time parent process or parent image parent command line and the command line, kind of the stuff that we look for every week or every other week when we do these. There's just no way to ingest that information that I'm seeing into Seam or a Splunk or anything like that. So yeah, I'm curious if anybody is using it, what you're using, and maybe we could try to run that through it. Saying Trey, you might want to just zoom in on your screen a little bit.
Okay. So that's not the one that truly matters. So let's zoom this guy in. Is that visible, Tyler?
Yeah, I can see it. I'd say maybe just a touch more if you can.
Say I can. Boom. All right, cool. So sorry about the delay, everybody. All good and set up now. Typically, we run these at noon. I guess this invite got sent out a little earlier, so I am behind the curve at a moment. You've caught me by surprise. So I'm sure Tyler already kind of gave you guys a gist, a brief, what we're going to cover, what we're talking about, and kind of showing off today. We've noticed an increasing need and concern for threat emulation and the ability to do it specifically around operating systems like Mac OS. We had an implant that worked, or I guess you could call it a payload for SCYTHE a while back. And a lot of changes happened in the last couple of revisions of Mac OS that kind of just made it a little funky and not quite viable to use. So our engineering team, they went through and did kind of a revamp of how the whole thing works, what it is, what it does. And now we have one that'll work up to the latest and current version of Mac OS, which is really interesting here to see. So I figured I would just talk about it for a second. We can show it off, let you see it work, let us see it run a campaign, and then me and Tyler can talk about some of the future plans we have for it real quick. I'll try and keep us under that 20-minute window here today. So the first thing I'm doing here, and feel free to interject whenever, Tyler, if you have questions, comments, things like that. I'm not watching that main screen.
No, I got it.
So I'm going to go ahead and just build out a quick threat and run that. So you guys can just see it quick and easy. I'll let everything that's in here kind of keep going. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that would be weird. So I've got a cool little implant here. So go to the direct download links. Now, I'm sure Tyler said it earlier while I was getting staged and hopping on, but with some of the security controls and the way like running executables, especially stuff that are downloaded from the internet and things like that, is you have to do a couple extra steps, but it's really kind of simple in how we do it. Let me come in here real fast. Where did my stuff go? Okay, so we're going to first need to pull down the implant itself.
Oh, I don't know if you said this right. So your SSH into another box, the victim box, and we're going to use the direct download link to pull the implant over to that remote victim Mac, right?
Correct. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a little frazzled at the moment. Yeah, so what we've got set up here is I've got a Mac Mini put in place that's in our testing environment. So I'm going to use one of our direct download links from the SCYTHE platform to pull it down real fast, and then we'll have to make some quick changes. And by changes, I mean we're basically going to have to utilize something native on the Mac endpoint already to copy the file over. We'll make it executable, and then we'll kick off the campaign. Dash. So dash O, I believe. Oop, nope, messed that up. Where'd it go? All right, I was in curl, not wget. That'll explain it, right? So that's the fun part about hopping around between so many different operating systems all the time. Kind of meshes you up. So now we got it pulled down. You see I've got testing.bin right there. First thing I need to do, I'm going to use DD to take testing.bin. We'll move it to temp. Temp.open.bin. Did I mess that up? Yep. If wouldn't be a live stream if you didn't mess it up live, right? I didn't pay enough sacrifices to the demo gods today.
That was it. I say, and you're running the DD command to essentially create that awesome .bin. It's taking the input of testing.bin and essentially outputting it in the awesome.bin, right?
Yes. So we're basically just making a direct copy of that file into another one, but we're doing it with something native to the Mac endpoint already. That way it kind of gets rid of those security markers placed on the file when it was downloaded.
So will
And
that get rid of like the equivalent of like the mark of the web essentially in like on like Windows devices or like
yeah, similar thing. They do like this weird like Apple quarantine mark that they tie to files like that, so that when you go to try to execute it for the first time, it gives you the whole prompt pop up of, hey, you're running something weird from the internet, and then you have to like go through settings, click through security, and like manually allow the file.
okay.
Doing it this way, we just avoid having to go through that whole GUI step process and make the file executable.
Okay. Cool.
So now I should be able to just go and we will see our campaign here kick off in a second. There we go. So while this is loading and running, we can kind of, we're already over 10 minutes. We can talk through, sorry, I had questions there actually. I think you answered the implant one. Awesome. And then, do you need elevated privileges in order to use DD in the way you just did? Realistically, no. With what I did, I'm a standard user on the host. I'm not like running as a super user or root or anything like that. So I could have done the same thing. DD was the way I did it, but we could have used copy or anything else to do it.
Yeah, I think you would only need to have elevated permissions to do that if you're trying to put it in a directory that you don't have access to. So that's why Trey moved it to the temp directory, because that should be universally accessible by any user.
Correct. And yeah, so while this is kind of running through, we'll let it finish here in a second. We're building out some pretty interesting stuff coming up here for this. The main one you should see, I think we're planning this threat Thursday to do a hygiene threat for macOS, right, Tyler?
Yes, yeah. For this month, the Thursday threat is going to be a hygiene test, like you said, hygiene threat for Mac operating systems. We have one already for Windows, and we have one for Ubuntu. It essentially just goes through and checks for Cat 1, Category 1, STIG compliance checks, things like that, just to make sure that it's a way to kind of make sure you have a good baseline. Starting out, just another way to help kind of bolster the defensive side of the endpoint.
And we've also been doing a lot of work in kind of expanding capabilities and things that can be used in the threats. Like we've got the new web shells that have been built. We have JCRAT, and another one of the things we're going to do is make a variant off of JCRAT and make it usable and workable around macOS as well. So we'll have a lot of those other features and functionalities we've built for Windows and Linux available here as well.
And then Vic says it seems like a security feature on the Mac to prevent accidental execution of binaries that download them. Yeah, I think it's a great security feature that they have to both protect you from like a drive-by download of something, or if you get phished to download some kind of executable or binary file, bin file, or even just that you don't want to accidentally click on something. I think it does a really good job of protecting you kind of from yourself. That way you don't execute something that you don't mean to.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Vic. It is definitely like a security feature. It's just one more step to ensure people want to run something and they don't inadvertently get tricked into running something else that they're not supposed to. This one's finished, and we can just so you can see the output and how it's very similar to the Windows and Linux runs. This one's doing a bunch of little things. This threat was built off mimicking the Dazzle Spy campaign and malware that ran. I want to say this was probably 2 years ago at this point, mid 2022, and it did a cool little implant and a bunch of other things. But we have several Mac threats that are in here already that you guys can see. So it does a little bit of discovery. It's going to go ahead and move some stuff in and print out the UIDs. It prints out the serial numbers for the endpoint. And these are interesting with the way it does the results. Like we've seen with some of the others, a fail in the platform doesn't always necessarily mean a fail. It just means the result was not a direct exit code 0. So that's not something to be concerned with. And checking out drives, all of that fun stuff. So it functions and runs just like you would see typically with any other threat from SCYTHE.
And the macOS threats still have a lot of the same modules that we have in the Windows threats and things like that, like the run and uploader, downloader, things like that. So you're still able to utilize the virtual file system and the different modules like that.
Yep, and what's interesting here, so I can go ahead and show it real quick. By default, yeah, those same ones are already in place: run, downloader, uploader. Utilizing Python pre-runtime, we also have like a test for messing with F5 big IPs. There's a health inspector. There's a version of Let Me Out, which we built into a module, so kind of doing egress testing, a JXA loader. There's all kinds of stuff. And this is one of those areas where we're also going to continue to put out new content, new modules, things like that, to work with the macOS platform. We get it. We understand the majority of the market share right now, especially enterprise, is Windows, but we don't want to just pigeonhole to that, right? We want to make sure there's coverage for everyone, regardless of what they're using. And we see it a lot more and more, especially with customers, and they're starting to adopt macOS, especially for their devs, especially since a lot of people have migrated some of their stuff to the cloud. So that reliance on Windows endpoints isn't quite the same as it used to be. But yeah, so that was our quick little demo. We can see we've got a cool new Mac implant. It's running. The steps are a little more than usual, but it was still super easy to kick this thing off and execute. And overall, I'm excited to see where we take it from here. I do think the hygiene threat's going to be pretty cool to put out there. And I'm excited to get a copy of JCrat working with macOS as well. We'll have to make sure to do a live stream for that one when it comes out.
Yeah, because I know we had one a few weeks ago for one of the Jake threats, the Ubuntu one, I think. So yeah, we'll definitely do another one for the Jake threat when it comes out on macOS. I'm excited to get more into the detection points on this. Hopefully, the next time that we have it, we'll have all the proper logs and tooling in place to be able to show off some threat hunting in macOS. So should be some good stuff coming forward as far as Mac is concerned.
For sure. So we got, looks like 2 minutes left. Do you want to give them a little teaser or hint for the next one? I think we've got one more of these left for the year, right?
Or yeah, I think we have one more Threat Thursday.
But we've been internally planning one more.
Yes, yeah, I think we have one more that we'll be looking at. Do you have the site that you can go to and show it?
Yeah, let's see if it'll pop for me here. I had some weird filtering going, but yep. See, my filtering is currently blocking it at my lab.
Well, you said it's just a teaser.
Boom. So I was able to pull it that way. So we're going to do an update and show you guys one of the IOCs turn threats that we made. Tyler put out a really cool IOC, I want to say in September on ClearFake, but there was just too much going on in it that we had to move it forward and make it a full-fledged threat. So we included a lot of the pieces and parts that they had, like some emulations of their loaders and payloads. But what was really cool was the inclusion of this web page here to mimic the initial attack vector that they were utilizing. And we'll dive more into it about what it is and why this page will matter for that. I think that's what, the 19th?
Yeah, it should be the Thursday right before Christmas, I believe.
Yep. So yeah, oh no, that'll be interesting as well. So make sure to tune back in and check that one out.
Yeah, for sure. Say thanks everybody for hopping on. Sorry we were a few minutes late. We just got some of the wires confused, but thanks everyone for hopping on, and see you in a couple weeks.
We'll catch y'all next time.
See you, everybody.